Welcome to the selfgrowth.com show. My name is David Riklan, and I'm the founder of selfgrowth.com. Today, we'll be discussing how to overcome limiting beliefs and achieve your dreams. To help us understand this topic, I'm excited to interview Aimee Teesdale. Make sure to listen closely. We're going to be sharing a lot of information today. Before we get started, I just want to take a couple of minutes and share some information about Aimee. It's Aimee Teesdale. She's a professional mindset coach and speaker who works with ambitious people getting in their own way of creating the business and life that they'd love. Having spent over 26,000 pounds and 12 years of her life studying areas including psychology, personal development, coaching, spirituality, and quantum physics, Aimee's expertise draws from a wide range of teaching and methodologies. However, it's the implementation of all this into her own life that makes her highly effective as a transformational coach. Aimee is a master of self-mastery, the art of consciously reprogramming one's mindset and belief systems as a means to achieving all that's desired. And she's done this for herself many, many times. As a result, her clients transform not only themselves, but their lives and their businesses too. I want to give out her website and jot this down so you can follow up with her later. It's aimeecteesdale.com, and it's a unique spelling for Aimee. It's A-I-M-E-E, the letter C, Aimee Teesdale, Teesdale.com. So jot that down. Aimee, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today.
All right. I'm very excited about this because it's an important topic. Because I know beliefs, mindset, things like this really have a big impact on people. So I'm going to jump right in over here. So I know people seek coaches because they want to create some kind of change or success in their life. And there are lots of different types of coaches out there that work in very different ways. So how exactly do you help your clients to create the results that they want?
Yeah, so I mean, when people are looking to make some kind of change in their life, there's kind of one of three avenues that they might want to explore. So, for example, they might look to make changes in their environment or the people in their environment. So that might be maybe they'll change the company that they work for, or maybe they'll finish a relationship. Maybe they'll move city or change the industry that they work in. So those are some examples of changing things on the environment level or the people in the environment. Somebody might also look to change their behavior. So they might look to start doing things differently. A New Year's resolution is a great example of a behavioral level change. So people very often on the 1st of January say to themselves, right, I'm going to start doing this differently. I'm going to give up alcohol. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to go to the gym, whatever it might be. So that's an example of how we might change at the level of behavior. But there's also a third avenue as well, which is to change at the level of mindset. And that's to change our beliefs, our thinking patterns, and our way of seeing the world, essentially. And it's that third level that I really focus on with my clients. It's helping them to figure out what is their way of seeing the world, how do they think, what are their beliefs, and how is that blocking them, and how can we create change there as a means to achieving the things that they want to achieve.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. And I see this every New Year's, people, you're right, either they try to change their environment, their habits, or as you're mentioning, and this really drives everything, is kind of beliefs and mindset because it enables you to do the other things.
Yes.
So let's delve in. You're talking about mindset. So why is mindset so important for creating the results that we want to achieve in our life?
Yeah, so essentially, I've mentioned there the three things: behavior, environment, and mindset. And our mindset is actually what creates our behavior, and it's what creates our environment. So that's why sometimes, we might make changes in our behavior or an environment, but it's still kind of like surface level changes because it's our mindset that actually gives rise to our behavior and environment in the first place. So, and like I said, if people are looking to change things in their reality, well, it's actually your mindset that is creating your reality in the first place. So I'm going to dive into that in a little bit more detail. If you think about what reality actually is, reality is nothing more than an image that our brain is creating and making up in its own mind based on data and information that it's receiving about the world around us. That's what our senses are for. That's what we have eyes for. That's what we have ears for.
Right.
All of those kind of senses, that's picking up sensory data about the world. It's feeding it back to our brain, and our brain's job is to analyze all of that data and create a map or a picture of what it thinks is going on in reality. Its job is to make sense of the world out there. And really, that's all that reality is. So reality is just this picture in our mind. So if you want to change how your reality looks or feels, then the foundation is really to changing that picture and that reality. And again, that's kind of like what I'm doing. I'm helping people to figure out what is the map or the image that their brain has created, how are they seeing the world, and how can we shift that in a way that's actually more useful to them, and then actually creates a tangible effect in their actual world out there, such as, growing their business or finding a partner and so on.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, because the big thing for me, you have these pictures, you're seeing the world in a certain way, but it's all about how you're interpreting
Yes, exactly.
what you're seeing. And I see this all the time. I see it with myself. I see it with people in general, where two people can have the exact same experience,
yes,
see the exact same thing, live the same thing, and they view it from two completely different perspectives.
Totally. Yeah, that's exactly what it's all about. We all have different interpretations of the same thing, essentially. And it's that interpretation that then guides us and tells us how to behave, what to do. It informs us about what we think we're capable of. And then that also becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, essentially.
That makes sense. So I know you call yourself in part, you're a mindset coach. What made you become a mindset coach?
So I would say at the heart of why I became a mindset coach is because I myself used to have a very, very limited mindset. But at the same time, I was also a very ambitious person, basically. So to give you a bit of story, so I was born into an ordinary working class family in a somewhat deprived area of England, the United Kingdom. We didn't have a huge amount of money growing up. And I would say that up until the age of about 18, which was when I left home to go to university, I would say I lived a fairly sheltered life. I had a very sort of narrow view of what the world looked like. I had a very limited view of what was possible for myself and what I could achieve. And then when I went to university, fortunately, my parents always really encouraged me to get a good education, and they sort of saw that would be the passport to me being able to live a better life than what was sort of typical in that area. So that's what I did. I went to university, I studied psychology. And then after that, I moved to London, obviously the capital of England. And it was through doing that I really had my eyes opened up to a much bigger world out there. And I was meeting people that were doing all sorts of amazing things, which at the time I used to think wasn't possible for me. It was like, they can do that, but I could never do that. That's not for me. People like me don't do things like that, essentially. But I was hungry for these things. I wanted these things. And I guess there was just a pivotal moment when I kind of just realized that the only thing that was actually different between myself and the other people out there that were doing these things was my own mindset. It was just the way that I thought, basically. And I was like, well, if other people are achieving these things that I would love to achieve, then it's not that it's not possible. It is possible. I just have to figure out how to do that. And, the way I did that wasn't just through changing my behavior and environment. It was actually through changing my mindset, changing the way that I thought about myself, the way I thought about the world. And yeah, that's kind of like what opened up the door for me. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping other people to do that as well.
All right. So I get that. So you saw it in yourself. You saw the issue with yourself. So apparently you had some limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Along the way. So what limiting beliefs have you managed to overcome in your life?
Oh, so many. I would say one of the main ones was I hands down used to say I could never start my own business. I could never work for myself because, again, people like me, where I'm from, just didn't do that kind of thing, basically. So yeah, I used to think I could never start my own business, and now here I am, like running my own business essentially, and absolutely loving it. Traveling alone, I remember moving to London, and I met friends, like women the same age of me, who were going traveling by themselves. I was like, oh God, I could never do that. Like, you're so brave. Like,
Right.
yeah. I used to think I could never do that. And now I'm location independent. I often travel around the world, often go alone as well. Financial scarcity has been a big one. Like I mentioned, I grew up in a working class family. Money wasn't particularly abundant when I was growing up. And I had a story about financial scarcity for a lot of my life, basically, even into my 20s. I always used to have this feeling that I don't have money, I'm never going to be wealthy or be able to create money, and so on. It's taken quite a bit of work, but eventually I've gotten to the point where I've gotten over that financial scarcity, and I'm now earning more than I ever really thought was possible, essentially. And then a couple of other things as well. So I used to feel that I wasn't very likable and that I didn't have many friends, or that I found it difficult to make friends. And again, that's something that I have managed to overcome. I now feel abundant with amazing friends that I love to spend time with, which is awesome. And also in the area of relationships as well. So I distinctly remember saying to myself, that I was too insecure to ever maintain a relationship, or the type of partner that I would love to be with wouldn't be interested in me. And again, that's something that I've managed to overcome. I no longer consider myself to be insecure in relationships. And in fact, I've even had partners say that to me, that I seem very secure in a relationship. So those are just a few examples of all the ways that I used to see myself and what was possible, and the things and where I am at now, and how I've overcome those.
What's interesting as I'm listening to you, one of the things that strikes me is how common some of your limiting beliefs are.
Exactly, yeah.
A lot of people have limiting beliefs around finances. A lot of people have limiting beliefs around relationships.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, I'm an entrepreneur, I started my own business. I know a lot of people have limiting beliefs around starting their own business, around travel, many of the things that you said. So these are really common ones that clearly you identified in yourself and were able to overcome.
Yes.
But a question I always found interesting for folks is, I think some people realize that they have some limiting beliefs. How do you know if you have a belief or mindset that's holding you back?
Sure. So my question would be, are you achieving the things that you would love to achieve? Or do you feel stuck with results that you're not satisfied with? Essentially, if you feel that you're not achieving everything that you could achieve or would love to achieve, or if you're kind of feeling stuck in life and just a little bit dissatisfied, then that's a good indicator that there's something in the mindset holding you back. Because if there were no limiting beliefs, then you would be creating the results that you really wanted, and you'd probably be finding it very easy to create the results that you would really love to create, basically. So so just have a think, are you satisfied with the results? Is there something else that you're really wanting to achieve or create, and you just feel like you can't get there, or there's something holding you back, basically? And a lot of people can recognize that they're not achieving everything that they would love, but they tend to get stuck at looking at the behaviors or the environment. They might think, oh, what do I need to do differently in order to create this? Or, how can I change my environment in order to create this? And like I said before, the most effective and the most powerful way to get to where you want to be is to actually look at the level of the mindset, and what are your beliefs that are getting in the way of you creating that, and how can you shift who you're being in order to create the results that you want. Basically, every time that I have created a shift at my level of being and what I'm believing, that's when results just start flowing a lot more quickly and a lot more naturally.
One of the words that just jumped out at me as you were speaking were stuck, where a lot of people, they set the goal, there's a place they want to be, and they're making progress, and then suddenly they hit a wall.
Yes.
They get stuck. And a lot of times I agree, it's these limiting beliefs that I can't, and I've heard cases where people said, all right, I'm never going to make more than this salary. This is the most I'm ever going to make. And for whatever, they just get stuck at that amount. It's like a psychological barrier that people have in terms of every part of their life, or the self-sabotage. They might be in a relationship, but their mindset is that they can't have a healthy relationship.
Yes,
They begin
exactly.
to do self-sabotage or things like that.
Yeah.
So once you've identified a belief that's holding you back, so let's say it's a
Mm-hmm.
financial or relationship,
Mm-hmm.
what can you do to overcome that belief?
Sure. So in order to identify the actual belief in the first place, what I would recommend is just writing down, like just grab a journal and write down anything that you think and feel about this particular area of your life. So you might write something down like, I feel angry, or I feel upset, or I feel stuck. And then you want to try to go deeper into that and say, like, why do you feel that way? So you might say, I feel angry because I think whatever, or I feel frustrated because of this. And so what you should be left with once you've just done some free journaling is a list of things that you believe and that you think, essentially. So once you've identified those and got those written down, you can then go through everything that you've written and try to identify any beliefs or thoughts which are not useful. So I will always say that I'm not necessarily concerned about what's true or what's not true. I'm just concerned about what's useful or not useful, right? So, and how to identify if a belief is useful or not. Ask yourself, how does this particular thought or belief make you feel? So, for example, if I had a thought, I'm never going to be rich. Well, how does that thought really make me feel? Well, it makes me feel a bit, not great, basically. Or you might ask yourself, what does this thought make me do? Or what does this belief make me do? So let's say it's related to weight loss. Let's say your belief is, I'm never going to be able to achieve my goal. Well, what does that belief make you do? Well, probably, as you said, it probably leads to that self-sabotage, basically, because if you don't think you're going to achieve your goal, then there's no point even trying. And so you just end up doing, things that take you further away from it, basically. So identify your beliefs. Then you want to identify which ones are either useful or not useful, depending on what they do in terms of how they make you feel and how they make you act. Once you've got those, the next thing to do would be to essentially cross-examine that belief in your mind. So have a think about, well, where did that particular belief come from? Because you weren't born with your beliefs. Your beliefs were created based out of experience, and nearly always they're created out of childhood experiences in particular. So see if you can identify where that particular belief came from. What was it that happened in your life that caused you to believe that particular thing? And then you might want to ask, well, are you able to see that that particular belief is actually just an interpretation and not the truth? Can you see how that was another thing that your brain just analyzed and interpreted based on the data it was receiving, and it's not necessarily representative of the truth out there? And then you could also look at, well, what might be an alternative interpretation for what happened? What might be a different belief or a different way of seeing things that might be more useful to you, essentially? So once you've kind of cross-examined it, you've shaken it up in your mind a little bit, you can see that it's not necessarily the truth. Then you can bring some forgiveness to yourself. And forgiveness, I think, is extremely underrated, and yet it's probably the most powerful tool that we have for transformation and self-creation. A lot of my personal growth and development has been because I've been practicing the art of self-forgiveness, essentially. So you want to forgive yourself for having held this particular belief, or for judging the world or judging yourself in this certain way. See your innocence in how you created that particular belief. Like, a lot of our beliefs, they are created outside of our conscious control and awareness, especially if we create beliefs as a child, like my money belief, for example. As a child, I saw what I saw in relationship to money, and this belief about financial scarcity was being created. I didn't know any different. I couldn't have chosen a different belief at the time. So I was very innocent in creating that story about financial scarcity. And it's for that reason I can forgive myself, just like you would forgive a child who came home from school one day and told you something about magical fairies or whatever, just because somebody had said something to them. You wouldn't judge that child. Like, it's a very innocent thing for them to do. And that's exactly the same that happens to us with bigger, more impactful beliefs as well. So bring that forgiveness, bring that innocence to yourself. And by the way, this is why a lot of the time typical affirmations don't always work. Like, a lot of people report actually feeling worse after doing affirmations. And the reason why is because they actually bypass this step of the process. So they tend to not actually identify the limiting belief and forgive that limiting belief before creating the affirmation. So sometimes people are just like, oh, I know I need to work on my confidence, so I'm just going to tell myself I feel confident and tell myself this every day. But then every time they tell themselves that they're confident, they're actually reminded of the fact that that's not how they truly believe. And so this is why actually identifying the limiting belief and forgiving it first creates the space for that affirmation to actually be useful to us, basically. So once you've created that forgiveness and seeing your innocence, that's when then you can create a new belief or a new interpretation that's going to be more useful. And that's what I call declarations. So I have a list of declarations which I declare to myself every morning, kind of similar to affirmations, but like I said, I've done the whole forgiveness process first. And when I'm doing my declarations, I will really spend time contemplating them and seeing the truth in them and really feeling what it feels like that this belief or idea is the truth and the way that I'm seeing things. And over the period of time, the more you do this, the more you practice it, the more those beliefs and declarations will just become your new default way of seeing things, basically. And like I said, I've done this many, many times myself. The ultimate goal, you've really achieved it with a declaration when somebody who doesn't know that you have been working on this particular declaration actually says your declaration back to you about you. So a great example was the one about being secure. So like I said, I always used to have this belief that I'm insecure in relationships. I did a lot of forgiveness to overcome that. I created a declaration which was I'm secure. And then at one point I was dating somebody and we were just hanging out and he said something, oh, you seem very secure in yourself. And I was just like, yes. And he had no idea that I'd been doing this work, right? So
I like it.
Yeah, that's when you know that it's really worked, because somebody's actually seeing it in you now. So that's kind of the point that you want to get to with the declarations.
All right. You just said a lot of things.
Yes, I did.
I want to unpack some of it, and then I have a couple of follow-ups with it. So I get that, very powerful. And what's interesting about a few things that you said is forgiveness is one of those things that people focus on, and they frequently think about forgiving others. And we forget the importance and the power of forgiving ourselves.
Yes, absolutely.
So that I see that as a critical component of the process. And also the way you were saying, looking at limiting beliefs in terms of, how do you feel about them, what impact they're having on you. And these are all important pieces of the process. So I get a lot of the pieces that you're saying here that make sense, and I see them working. Now, I'm going to two kind of broad questions. One, this process that you have of including everything, including the declarations, do you find that it works for everyone? And is it something typically someone can always go through by themselves, or do they need outside assistance, or what's so kind of unpack those two. So you went through this process. Can you do it alone? Is it helpful to have someone help you? Where does all this fit in?
Yeah, great question. So in terms of does it work for everyone? I think it works for everyone who believes it has the potential to work, basically. Like I said before, our beliefs actually create our reality. Our beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies. And so if you believe that this process and this work has the potential to make a difference, then it absolutely will work for you. But if you're somebody that believes that you cannot change, that your beliefs are just set in stone, like if you're one of these people that has the phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, for example. If you have that particular mindset, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to actually embrace this work and for it to work. Not because it cannot work, but because that particular belief is in the way first. And so if you recognize and notice that within yourself, but you would actually love to be able to do this kind of work, then the first thing that I would recommend working on is changing your beliefs about being able to change your beliefs, essentially,
Right.
or
Mhm.
about being able to change.
Right.
So, and there are some ways that you can do that. So you might have a look through your life to see where some of your beliefs have actually changed. Maybe sort of not necessarily you've changed them deliberately, but something has happened that's
Mhm.
caused a belief within you to change, for example. And then
Right.
that will give you sort of evidence that, oh, I can change my beliefs. It happened without me sort of being aware and consciously doing it,
Mhm.
but it is possible, essentially.
Right.
Um, and in terms of whether it's something you can do alone, yes, it is something you can do alone. It's something that gets a lot easier with practice. I would say the hardest part of the process to do alone is actually identifying the beliefs in the first place, because our beliefs don't occur to us as beliefs. Our beliefs occur to us as truth. Like that's the
Right.
way that life is. And so it can be
Mhm.
difficult to sort of see, oh, that's actually not the truth. That's just a belief that I've been holding, because that's,
Mhm.
we just think that that's the way it is. So, I mean, I'll give you a sort of trivial example. You wouldn't sit here and say, oh, my brain is interpreting the wall as white. We would just say that, oh, the wall is white, for
Right.
example.
Mhm.
We don't see that it's actually our brain creating an image or an idea that the wall is white based on the
Mhm.
information that it's receiving, if that kind of makes sense. So it is something you can do alone. But I would certainly recommend getting help, at least in the beginning, until you sort of have really embodied the practice, and have become skilled at doing it, essentially.
Right. All right. So a lot of us, and I see some of it in myself, we recognize pieces of the puzzle, things that you're saying, limiting beliefs,
Hmm.
things about our own mindset. And some I've been working on, some, as you mentioned, you're not even aware of it. It's just,
Yeah.
it's so built in and ingrained in you. You just think it's kind of a self-evident, it's
Mm,
a self-evident truth.
yeah.
So for those of us who are recognizing these changes in mindset and what's holding them back,
Hmm.
and are seeing these things, what would you recommend they do next? What would be kind of the next step?
Yes, great. So one thing I would recommend is certainly reading books about the nature of beliefs and about our own mindset. So, for example, The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton is a great book that
Mhm.
really helped me. Growth Mindset as well. That's another really awesome book that teaches you about the power of mind. And the power of our beliefs. So definitely start reading some books, because personally for me, especially if you've got quite a scientific mind, and really like evidence for things, then reading
Mhm.
books can really provide that evidence, and
Right.
it can really give you the sort of concrete basis as to how and why this actually works. It's not just like spiritual made up woo woo. It's
Mhm.
scientific about how our brain actually works. The next thing that I would certainly recommend doing is journaling. And getting into the practice of just writing and expressing what's going on in our mind. That's a really great tool for self-awareness, and uncovering what it is that we actually think and what we actually believe. And to help with that, actually, I've got a free download that's available on my website. And so this free download actually takes you through the whole process that I've explained. So it helps you to uncover and express what these beliefs are and what beliefs you might have, identifying the ones that are not useful, how to forgive yourself, and then how to create a new declaration, and then basically embed that new declaration or that belief. So I've got a free download on my website that talks you through the whole process. So I would definitely recommend looking through that as well. And then the third thing is that if you would really like help with this, then definitely reach out to myself. I can help you to see things that you can't see. And I would be very happy to explore how I can do that and what working with me might look like, actually. So I've actually just opened the doors to my annual group coaching program.
Mhm.
It's called Create. And so the idea of it is that I will be helping you to create the person that you want to be and the life that you would love to live. It's an 8-month program. There's only 4 spaces, and at least 2 of those have already gone. So there's only a couple of spaces
Okay.
left. And like I said, it's 8 months. It's a weekly coaching call. And I will be helping you to identify those beliefs that are holding you back,
Right.
as well as training you in how to go through this process so that you just embody this whole process. I'm now at
Mhm.
a point in my sort of growth where I am able to just identify beliefs that are holding me back and then just quickly forgive them because I've been practicing it essentially.
Right.
You know, it's a bit like going to the gym. If you want to, get fit or lose weight, you wouldn't just expect to go to, a personal trainer or the gym just once. You'd expect to see somebody over time. And that's when the results are going to show, basically.
All right. So a lot of this on your website. I know I gave it out earlier. Can you give out your website again for folks?
Absolutely. Yes. So it's aimeecteesdale.com, and Aimee is AIMEE, which is the French way of spelling Aimee. C and then Teesdale, TEESDALE, aimeecteesdale.com. That's where you can find my free download. It's a banner at the top. And that's how you can also reach out to me as well if you are interested in joining the coaching program.
All right. So you shared a lot of very important information today. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, mindset and beliefs are really kind of a critical component. And clearly, this is something that you've been working on. You work with a lot of people. So I recommend everybody who's listening, definitely go to Aimee's website. At a minimum, get the free workbook.
Yeah.
Start with that. If you want to reach out to her, and I'm assuming you're available for a conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
Is information right on your website to get in touch with you? All the details?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. There's a few different spots on the website where you can reach out to me. And yeah, if anyone is interested, then just reach out to me. We'll have a chat over the phone first. I can get to know you. I can find out more about what you're looking for. I can tell you more about the program, and then we can take it from there and see if it's something that you want to go ahead with.
All right, sounds good. Check her out. Go to our website. And we're just about ready to wrap up. Any final words for our audience before we finish up today?
Yes, my final words are that the sky is not the limit, your mind is.
I like that phrase. The sky is not the limit, your mind is.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. I like that as a final message. Aimee, first, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Right. Very informative, a lot of good practical advice. And I'd like to thank everybody for listening. And I want to wish everybody great success in all areas of your life. We'll talk to everybody soon.
Thank you. Bye.